Hi, it's Ken Kilday, and today we're going to talk a little bit about how I came to form my own coaching practice and the history behind my leadership leading up to that point. So prior to starting my own coaching practice, I was in financial services for about 20 years. A little better than half of that at USAA Wealth Management, where I had a chance to begin as a financial planner, but then I started to progress in my career as a branch leader and then a regional leader, and then I was recruited to go to Charles Schwab because of the relationships that I had made with senior executives at USAA who had left for Schwab as well. So during my time at USAA, as we were continuing to build out branches, my philosophy of practice had been to spend a lot of time and attention building relationships with my team, making sure we had the right people from a culture fit perspective, certainly from a talent perspective. However, my style also gave rise to criticism from others that this focus on people was maybe too permissive because the prevailing method of leading at the time was more carrot and stick. In other words, give people a number that they needed to hit and then follow behind and make sure they did it. Where my approach had always been build relationships with the team, and though we might not be fast and hottest out of the gate hitting any particular number, once we got traction and really got moving, we had a much more sustained success. So, once we hit number 1 or 2 in terms of rankings, we tended to stay there. And that happened over and over again. So I came to believe that approach, that the extra time it took to get to know each and every person, was a better way to build results that lasted. And the other part of that is we built a team of people that liked coming to work, that liked each other, that were willing to share their best ideas, that were willing to help one another. And that was a little bit different than some of the other teams that were little more than a collection of individuals rather than a team working for the collective good. Over time, I progressed from being a branch leader to also being a regional leader, and somebody that I had grown very close to and was a mentor of mine, a senior leader who had worked at USAA, was now working at Schwab, recruited me to come to Schwab because they were looking to build an entirely new business and also to continue to grow some of the other aspects of financial planning. So it was a pretty exciting time for me to take that on, and certainly an opportunity to learn even more about business development and launch in the digital space, as we say. A lot of people call it virtual delivery. We always call it digital delivery because we wanted people to know it's just as real as being in a room with somebody. And I followed the same principles building out those teams and developing the existing leadership team for some of the businesses as I had always followed, which was build good solid relationships, choose good solid people, and coach people in the direction of a common goal as opposed to each person individually focused on themselves and their own success. So over the course of working for a great firm with an amazing leadership team, remarkable peers, I also had, there were also there was a bureaucracy like there is in most corporations, and initially I paid little attention to it because I was very focused on the new business and my own team and developing good solid team members in a new enterprise and a couple of existing. Probably about a year and a half in, there started to be a real shift in the relationship between me and my boss. It was never particularly strong. However, I simply tolerated it because every other aspect of the role was pretty awesome. But there was a real shift. He was coming under a lot of pressure, and it became clear to me that he needed someone to blame for his inability to produce in his own role. And so there was this moment where it crystallized for me that it was time to think about what was next. I was sitting in my office looking at my calendar, reviewing it, and looking at all the meetings in a week that I had with my boss. And I thought, that's a lot of time to meet with one individual, especially when they tended to be the one who spoke through most of the meetings. So I looked at how many hours that equaled in a month, and then how many hours that equaled in a year. And what I came up with, it was about 100 hours. So I was spending 100 hours listening to somebody speak that had nothing to do with the businesses I ran or development or anything that produced any sort of positive result. And that's when it was pretty clear that the things that I was ignoring in our relationship were no longer worth it. And in fact, we're coming to some pretty much a loggerheads. And I voiced those concerns to 2 more levels above my boss, and that deeply offended him. So at that point, it was pretty well broken, and it was time to go. And so I negotiated a multi-month exit so that I could transition to whomever was next. But also, it was a time to think about what was next for me. November, it becomes clear things are not working. December, I have conversations with a couple of levels above me. By January, the boss is deeply offended that I've dared speak to anybody else, and makes it clear that my life's going to get even more difficult if he has anything to say about it. And I make the decision that I'm going to leave without knowing what is next. And then we make that decision, we announce in February, I leave at the very end of March. And in that time period, which is pretty common in most industries, the minute we make a public announcement, headhunters start coming for similar roles in the same industry. And that's when it became obvious to me that this was an opportunity to really do something different and that focused on a lot more of what I enjoy doing. And it was actually my husband who walked me through that conversation of what aspect of all the roles I'd had, especially as being a leader, did I love and would like to do every single day. And that was helping other people develop using their own talent, helping them see what their talent is, and then how to deploy that on behalf of others, which is coaching. That's what coaching is to me, especially. And he said, well, there are businesses that do just that. And I started putting pen to paper and plotting out exactly what my coaching practice would look like and how it would develop, and putting together a website and all those little elements that became ultimately Leaders Cut. Thanks for watching today's video on Life Before Leaders Cut. If you'd like more information, including all the ways that you can connect with me, go to kenkilday.com.